Yo, everybody. Welcome to the Sports Card Strategy Show. We are in episode 35. And because we have so many episodes under our belt now, I now have two co-hosts on today's episode, brought to you by NoOffSeason.com. We have hosts of two of our other shows on our Sports Card Content Network with me on today's show. We have Kendall, McKee, the catalytic lefty as always. And then we have our man down in Florida, our main man, Andy Cason from Football Card Quest on YouTube. And he is also the host of the Football Card Strategy Show here on the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. And I am Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. And I'm super excited to talk to these guys today. Since Andy's joining us, we are going to talk a lot about the NFL, so get ready for that. But also, Kendall is our host of the Soccer Card Strategy Show and the Baseball Card Strategy Show, and we're going to talk about soccer and baseball as well. So, guys, how you doing today? Thanks for joining me.
Happy to be here, Paul.
Always blessed, my man. Ready to go. Ready to talk about cards.
Let's do it. All right. So, whether you are listening on Spotify or Apple, or you are watching us on YouTube, we are going to continue to improve our production of the show. And we want to make it interactive with you, the audience. So if you're on YouTube, drop us a comment. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know any questions that you have. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, check us out on the Facebook group by going to sportscardstrategy.com. Click the quick link to join the Facebook group there. And Andy, Kendall, and myself are always there participating and answering questions. And it's a small group. We got just over 200 people now. So I think it's a good place to become part of the community. You don't have to worry about your stuff getting buried with 30,000 members and a bunch of different comments. So I think it's just the right amount of people, and we'd love to see you there. All right, so let's jump into the first topic of today's show. Andy, you may or may not have anything to say about this one, but we will quickly get to football, so don't worry about that. I want to talk a little bit about soccer because there was something, Kendall, that I noticed over the weekend that as I was doing research for the Sports Card Investment Report at NoOffSeason.com, which I tend to plug quite a bit when I talk about topics, I was doing research on a couple different guys, Saka and Adeyemi. So Kareem Adeyemi and Bukayo Saka and Jude Bellingham. These are all guys that ESPN.com has ranked some of the top players age 21 or younger. And Bellingham and Adeyemi are in Bundesliga, and Saka is in the Premier League. And what just dawned on me as I was really digging in deep, Andy Cason style, into their cards was the licensing issues that soccer card investors may or may not realize that they're facing. Now, I think a lot of you watching and listening are probably on top of this one. And if so, we would love your take on your experience with this. But if you're not, if you're just kind of getting into sports card investing or soccer card investing, I will say that Topps, having the Bundesliga license, having the UEFA Champions League license, being a little bit more on top of their game, putting RC logos on cards, and being in a position to showcase cards in a more timely fashion than Panini, I think has made guys like Bellingham and Adeyemi more investable than Saka, whereas Saka might be a better player. Kendall, you know more about soccer and you know more about soccer cards than many of us. And I think Saka being on Arsenal, which may be a better team than Dortmund, for example, right? I don't know if that's the case or not, but I'm saying like the team that Bellingham and Adeyemi play for versus the team that Saka plays for, and then the fact that Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, etc., they each, I believe, only get a certain amount of entries into the Champions League. I think that sometimes can affect the investability of a player's card. So Kendall, do you want to elaborate on this for me? Tell me where I might have it right and where I might have it wrong. And then Andy, if you have anything else to add from your perspective on this, we'd love to hear from you as well. So Kendall, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Well, I'll start off by saying you're correct by saying that Bellingham and Adeyemi are in the Bundesliga, but in terms of cards currently, Adeyemi's cards are from the Austrian Bundesliga because he just made the move to the Bundesliga this offseason. Like he's a brand new transplant to Borussia Dortmund, and he previously played for Red Bull Salzburg, which also is a Champions League team. So he does have cards in that set, but they're not Dortmund cards yet. I mean, they unless they're printed like less than a month ago. So
Right.
the small caveat there is they are in that set that you're talking about, and they do have RC logos, but you're going to see a Salzburg jersey logo from Adeyemi, which people are fairly familiar with. It is a Red Bull team. So there's the Red Bull Leipzig, there's Red Bull Salzburg, there's Red Bull New York. So they have plenty of teams that's very recognizable. Plus, you've got guys like Brennan Aronson. You've got Erling Haaland that's come from them as well, from the Red Bull logos as well. And so, but what I think you're asking here is the RC logo designation. For instance, the Premier League has a Panini license. And so Arsenal, in fact, doesn't necessarily do that RC logo. They kind of do their rookie releases a little bit differently. For instance, you'll see like the rated rookie stuff and things like that. It just looks like a cheaper product. I don't know how to explain that. Like mentally, I just feel like it's a lower bar of entry. And Prism soccer actually is not very accepted in terms of the general like consensus of card collectors. Actually, there's kind of a lot of hate in terms of the Prism product when it comes to soccer cards. So Topps seems to have a general market share that's pretty dominated in this sport specifically. And it reminds me actually of baseball, which is why I think it's so easy for me to translate between both. Is Topps is the dominant not species. That's what I was going to say. Topps is the dominant producer in those sports. And it kind of just dawned on me in the past couple of weeks. Like I knew it was a present thing, but when I'm looking at, okay, which cards are investable and which cards are not, I've always been asking myself, okay, why is Mega Crack not as popular? Why is the Prism not as popular? Why is stickers not as popular? And I think it's because the general market share of the whales that are coming in and they want that Topps RC logo because typically they're coming from other sports and this is what they know. And so it's easy for them to look at the card and be like, okay, that's his first one, rather than all the confusion that we know that's behind soccer cards right now about like, what is a rookie card? For instance, they might be in the league 4, 5, 6 years before they get an official rookie card. They might have 40 goals to their name before they get a rookie card designated logo by Topps. And so, but still, that card is the one that's going to hold value. So an RC logo or RPA is, or a RC signature auto is going to be something that's really, really present. Another thing that's really unique about soccer cards is there's not a lot of on-card autos. And I wonder if that is going to be another designation of higher class investments. And so I've been kind of diving into that, whether sticker autos are very like people are investing in them, but I wonder if there's even a higher tier that people aren't really even paying attention to right now because soccer is such a craze. People are just like, that one's an auto, let me have it. I wonder if it's going to be an even higher designation when you talk about on-card autos because they're so much more rare because of the international shipping and everything. I'm sure they're just sending stickers to the players rather than having to send, oodles of cards maybe all the way across the ocean, stuff like that. And all these countries have different sort of customs and shipping problems. And so anyway, all that to say, yes, I would say that Saka might be the better player. Although I think the window between Borussia Dortmund and Arsenal is closing. I think they're both considered at this point. They're both kind of feeder teams that are just right on the teeter or like teetering on the top of their league. Arsenal has been there before, which helps them. They have a legacy. You think of Thierry Henry and all those players that have come from Arsenal. But Dortmund is definitely pumping out some incredible prospects over the last 10, 15 years and is kind of vaulting themselves in the top 2, 3 in Bundesliga. And I don't want to say that Bayern Munich, top of the Bundesliga year after year, is not as good of a club as some of those English Premier League teams.
Right.
I would actually venture that some of those teams are actually better, and we've seen those teams win Champions Leagues and things like that. And England actually hasn't fared well in the past 20 years in terms of Champions League experience overall. Now there have been winners. Chelsea has won it, Man City. I think Liverpool got to the finals this year, and so there are English teams that are good. I'm just saying that the way I look at it is England is the best league. Spanish has the best players, even though that's a little different now that Ronaldo and Messi are not there, and Germany has the best fans. But Bayern Munich is definitely a team that needs to be reckoned with. And the Bundesliga sets are pretty crazy. For instance, that Leipzig set right now, that Leipzig top set is incredibly expensive because of how many awesome autos are in the product. And so like they're doing specific team sets from tops now, and that's kind of a new thing. So
yeah, that's a good point. I think those are investable cards, especially when you look at the RC logo, you look at the autos, the serial numbers, the prospects that are either on the US men's national team or just guys that are 21 and under that are in the Champions League on good not only club teams but World Cup teams as well. And so I noticed your shout out on the sly to Southern Soccer Idiot, I think is his handle on YouTube. The Southern Soccer Idiot.
He roasted me, dog.
He's a loyal audience member of the Sports Card Strategy Show and the Soccer Card Strategy Show, where he has absolutely called out Kendall multiple times in a nice way, in a very nice
I love it though.
way.
I really do like the debate. So
yeah, I do too. And I have a conspiracy theory here that because Southern Soccer Idiot kind of reminds me of Andy Cason, and Andy Cason is so analytical driven, but he's also like very
you're not an idiot,
intelligent
Andy.
In terms of how he articulates his points. I mean, he's just like bang, 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 point, point, point. And so my conspiracy theory is like, is Andy Cason actually Southern Soccer Idiot? Andy?
That would be hilarious.
I do like the self-deprecating humor there, but no, I can firmly say I'm not the Southern Soccer Idiot. I do think that there's a ton of growth potential in football, right? Global football, not American football, NFL. Even though the NFL is the highest revenue earning single sports league, if you were to add up all the Bundesligas, the Premier Leagues, all these soccer or global football leagues across the world, I mean they earn more revenue than the NFL, MLB, NBA combined. So it's pretty wild to think how big of a sport that is, and how their cards are just kind of like they've definitely caught up a lot, but I think they were the last sport to kind of catch on fire in the sports card boom. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's because of all the different products. Like it's easy in America to get like one product. It's coming out, it's hitting the shelves. It's been the way for 70 years. Topps and Panini have kind of been the thing. But like Panini has had a whole lot of European influence and a lot of European domination over the last recent history. But there's also Mega Crack and all this stuff, and trying to figure out all those cultures and saying like, no, this is the brand that you need to be buying. It is kind of a hard thing. That's kind of, we are seeing it happening now, but it's taken a long time to kind of get there. And I think that's just due to global expansion. So.
Yeah, I also think just real quick on this point about soccer, maybe one of the reasons why it's been slower to come along in sports card investing, because we all know sports card investing is very different than just watching major sports on TV. Sports card investors are very savvy when it comes to finding the next thing, digging down deep and finding like the next sleeper area to invest in. So I don't think that the interest level in soccer hasn't been there for sports card investors. My theory is that it's confusing. You have to have a Kendall McKee passion for following global football to understand how the systems work, because you have 5 or 6 leagues that are significant, none of which follow the traditional league system that we all grow up with in America. Like, for those of you who are not American residents, you're watching this from around the world, shout out. I'm in Valencia, Spain right now, but basically I grew up obviously in the United States. And so I think for those of us that grew up in the United States, we understand sort of like middle school, high school, some AAU, some different other leagues around high school, but then college, maybe some other leagues around college. But then ultimately there's a draft. There's a freaking draft in every single one of our sports. And that makes it easy to do research, because we can go, where was this guy drafted? Yeah. Oh, we can go to NFL.com, NBA.com, MLB.com, etc., NHL.com, and we can look at the draft that just happened. We can go back draft by draft by draft. There is not that in global football. I mean, for somebody like me who's a sports geek, it's still confusing. I still have to try to ask Kendall 73 times how things work, and I still don't understand it. So there's really no go-to place for that information. Maybe there's Transfer Market, there's other things like that, but it's still a little bit confusing. So anyway, I think that, but I do think that, like, with more and more interest with the U.S. being more involved in having a competitive team in international play and upcoming World Cups, all these things are making soccer a great place to go. So my last point on soccer for today, unless Kendall brings us around to it at some point in the show, is Messi, who is number 37 on the Sports Card Investment Report, and he's listed as a GOAT, obviously, in our categorization of our GOATs, heroes, and flyers at no offseason. He just scored 5 goals in a game for the second time in his career. Now, this was against Estonia, and it was in friendly competition. But Kendall, does this have any performances like this have any bearing on soccer card investors, maybe even people who, we're kind of talking about people who are fringe soccer card investors. They're sports card investors, and they might dabble in soccer. And or people who are like diehard soccer card investors. Does this have any kind of significance the way that it would, say, if Deshaun Watson comes in and throws, 5 or 6 touchdown passes in his first game as a Cleveland Brown? Because I think, Andy can probably comment on what would happen if that does occur. But what happens if, when this kinds of things happen with Messi?
Oddly enough, I really don't think this affects Messi's value, because we know he's that guy. Messi's. I don't know if Messi's value can go up exponentially by scoring 5 goals, because everyone kind of expects that's already baked into his price. Let's just put it that way. And so when a guy like Messi scores 5 goals, especially against a friendly the way he did, it's not something that's going to, exponentially rise his value. And if anything, I think what it has done for Messi is it's kind of reminded everybody, oh, I'm still here. I'm still very, very good at what I do, and I think over the past couple of months with him being at PSG and having a lot of questions and needing to, people have been asking, is Messi kind of washed? We watched him go to PSG and he wasn't Barcelona Messi. And that's because I think Messi is more of a fundamental team member. The whole thing has to be built around Messi for Messi to be what he is, because of the style of play. I'm not saying that Messi is not as good standalone, but I'm saying he's got to have a specific style to fit inside where he can kind of lay back. And I don't want to get into that right now, but if you put Ronaldo on any team, he's going to be Ronaldo no matter what, because he's just athletic and he's just going to go find the ball, and he's big, he's fast, he's strong. but like Messi needs like the teammates that are very important for him to be able to do what he does. And I like that. But anyway, I don't want to get into that much more than what I just did. But what I do want to say is it would remind people that, hey, Messi is still the GOAT. Like, he's still Messi, and so if nothing else, it prevents people from selling his cards in a panic sale that they're like, oh, well, I've invested in Messi over the past 6 months, right before he got into his PSG window. Like, I have to sell now before I lose, all my bags. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Because like right now we're seeing the dip in Messi's value, but I think he's not going anywhere. If you bought 6 months ago, don't sell right now. Like, I would actually put it in a vault and just save it, because that's one of those GOATs that's going to go up forever and ever. It's the Maradona effect. Argentina is going to, even when Messi retires, they're going to parade him around like he's, some superstar forever and ever and ever. I do think his brand exposure is not going to be as good as Maradona or as Ronaldo's, just because of the person he is. He's not the guy who's going to show up and show out. But I think with him owning shares of Inter Miami, if that's in fact true, is going to be really unique, because then that might mean that he moves to America and retires in Miami. I'm talking about after his football career is even over. Like, yes, he might end up coming to the MLS, which I think would do a lot for his brand value in terms of sports cards collecting, because of the U.S. connection with sports cards. But I think he ends up retiring in Miami, and I think the Inter Miami link, and if he's involved in the front office anywhere there, could be really big, especially if he pulls that franchise out of the gutter and things like that. So just don't sell Messi, please. That's all I'm saying.
Is it kind of like,
I think sometimes a lot of
I was going to relate it. Is it kind of like to Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdowns, in week 1, and people saying, "Oh, the hype is spiking. You got to sell, right?"
Yeah, don't do that. Do not sell on a 5-touchdown Tom Brady first. No, hold that thing so that when he's, like when that card's worth $1 bazillion, like you can just sell shares of it or something. I don't know. Yes, that is very similar.
Yeah, Andy, I was going to say, like, I also think of, I've noticed a lot of Messi sales doing my research for No Off Season, and one of the companies that I think does an amazing job, obviously, is Slab Stocks with their daily slab email. So I follow that constantly, and Messi, the sales on both PWCC Marketplace and on eBay have been more and more frequent this summer, and they're pretty significant. And so I think that
Those people are dumb.
Yeah, I think Kendall, you could, definitely comment on this, but my take is, like, sometimes we overcomplicate things as sports card investors and as prospectors, and we get really excited about the new shiny draft pick, the new shiny prospect. And the reality is, like, and this is where I think our guy Paul Fisher, in the Facebook group and on the show, kind of hammers home, like, the GOATs. And so you've got a GOAT like Messi, who's still got markers ahead of him, to your point, Kendall. And so sometimes it's like, hey, not only don't sell, but, he's probably a buy to a certain extent as well still. So I do think it is like Tom Brady throwing 5 touchdown passes to a certain extent.
And GOATs having influence of other GOATs. I actually have Cristiano Ronaldo to thank for kind of influencing Tom Brady to come back.
That hat trick.
You saw that?
Man, that was hilarious. Are you talking about the photo where he's in the crowd?
Yeah. Oh, actually, Tom Brady took his son and they met with Cristiano Ronaldo after the game. And there's a little clip of Cristiano Ronaldo saying, "Hey, Tom, are you retiring? Or are you coming back?" And Tom's like, and that was after Ronaldo had the hat trick.
That's so funny. I didn't know that. So I saw the tweet of him sitting in the crowd when Ronaldo gets the hat trick, and he like looks real inquisitive. And the tweet was like, "Is this the moment where Tom Brady realized he's not done?"
I think that was it, man. I think it was that conversation he had after the game with him.
I think he saw Ronaldo and he's like, "God dang it, I got to keep stepping up."
That's great.
That's so funny.
I heard LeBron James his 50-point performance this season when he was playing small ball center for the Lakers also may have had an impact on Brady. So it feels like Brady's like following the GOATs from these other sports and going, all right, I'm not done yet. But
how
who knows?
fortunate
It's
are
kind of
we
fun to
really?
talk
How
about.
fortunate are we really that we get to watch Ronaldo, Messi, LeBron, Tom Brady? I mean, like, we literally have some of the best that have ever played sports ever in all the sports, and we're just getting to watch them. I mean, Mike Trout, for instance, throw Mike Trout in there. We're very fortunate.
Even Tiger Woods has made some of a
Right.
comeback, even now from another crazy injury, you know?
And I mean, I don't know if I'm ready yet, but like Connor McDavid is also on the ice, you know, like, wow, we're fortunate.
For sure. Yeah, so speaking of GOATs, we talk about having a good balance of GOATs and flyers in your sports card investing portfolio. So let's take it to the flyers real quick, and let's talk to Kendall about baseball before we deep dive jump into football for a big portion of the show with Andy. But Kendall, I want to give a shout out to a couple of our YouTube commenters, Chad Mayer and Duncan Cards, who are also challenging you a little bit on the baseball side of things. Less intense than Southern Soccer Idiot, although I kid. Southern Soccer Idiot's just very intelligent, and he's definitely we love his comments and we love his takes, and he's very appropriate with how he does it. But so are Chad and Duncan. So basically, Chad and Duncan are both kind of they're asking about a couple guys that we haven't talked about yet, which is why I just wanted to work this into today's show. So one of the guys is a Dodgers prospect by the name of Miguel Vargas, who I believe is in AAA right now, and he has some investable cards. Obviously, he's got our favorite Bowman Chrome First autos and all that good stuff. Give us your take on Vargas for the sake of Chad.
So I'm actually very high on Vargas, and I'm more or less more excited about him in real life. Like, you know, cards is like, okay, but I'm actually very excited about Vargas becoming an up-and-comer in the Dodgers system. Just not even from a fantasy perspective, just sheer I love baseball perspective. I'm excited about Vargas coming up. I think he's a really toolsy player. He's young at a AAA level. He's at 22 at a AAA level. He's 24% better than league average at the AAA level with a 16.8% strikeout percentage, which is phenomenal. That means he's totally ready to take over that spot at third base. And I think I think the Dodgers have held him down just out of respect for Justin Turner. Justin Turner's been their third baseman forever and ever, amen. And they even signed him back to kind of a legacy deal, like you've seen with like Brett Gardner or something, being a Yankee longer than he deserves to be a Yankee athletically. But they're going to make him a Yankee because he is the Yankees, if that makes sense. So I think Justin Turner is that player for the Dodgers. Even though Justin Turner has been incredible, I'm not saying that he's like washed and that he just, you know, it's like the old folks legacy deal that they gave him. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is potentially Miguel Vargas is going to take over that third base role after Turner is out. And Vargas is a nasty hitter. I love the way that he presents himself in the box. He's doing what he's doing at an elite level, and investability. I think he's undervalued currently. There's other guys that I would rather have in that little spectrum of where he's at in terms of his buy profile, because I think there's deeper plays that you can make there. And for me, he's kind of not in a flyer term. He's kind of moving between a flyer and a star, but he's just not exactly getting MLB time yet. And so I think he'll be there quickly. So if you're trying to get a guy that's going to move quick from the minors to the majors, then Vargas is definitely a guy you're going to be looking for. So if you're looking for the 2 to 3 year flip rather than like most of baseball cards are, you know, like you're digging through the dollar boxes to find the guys that are going to explode in value. That's kind of the difference between baseball and maybe football or basketball, is like it's a lot. The exponential return is a lot higher potentially from guys that you can find just way out in the dollar boxes. But Vargas is nice. his autos are super cleaned as well. I think that's another thing. That 2020 set, it's very clear. It says Vargas, very clear every single time. And I was like, I like that. I appreciate that as a card collector. And I think that actually goes into his value as well. When you see that, look, Vargas underlined. It's that way every single time. And I love his cards. I'm a big investor. I'm a big fan of his. I actually got into him a little late, to be honest. And so I don't have as many Vargas cards as I'd like because I waited too long. I believed that some other guys were going to, in the Dodgers system, were going to rise above him, and they never did. So I'm a little late on Vargas, which is why I don't have as many bags in him as I would like. But I do love him as a prospect.
Cool. So yeah, like this graph chart that we're looking at right now is his 2020 Bowman Sapphire Edition Chrome Prospect Auto. And at nooffseason.com, we've been doing in our sports card investment report sort of a play of the month for each not each profile, but anytime we see data like this, we kind of call it out in a play of the month for each guy now. And so what I like, Vargas may fit that profile because you see his PSA 10 of this particular card is down. There's not a huge sample size in sales, but it is down. And so it appears to be a good buying time right now. This is obviously from marketmoversapp.com by Sports Card Investor, where you can get your first month for only $1 if you use the promo code NOOFFSEASON. That's a great tool, so we would love you to do that. But thanks for the question, Chad, and thanks for the answer there, Kendall. And then the other guy that Chad asked about on YouTube is Vinny Pasquantino, who, based on my research, does not have Bowman cards. He has Prism and he has Contenders, obviously non-licensed from Panini, and there are some autos, but I do not know anything about this guy. Kendall, do you have anything to add about Vinny Pasquantino?
Yeah, Vinny is definitely a guy who's rising in a lot of systems and a lot of top 100 lists. At justbaseball.com, he's actually 6th in our Royals top 30. He's not exactly in our top 100 list, but if you look at the profile that we have on our top 30 Royals prospects, he's number 6th. When you look at the outlook, we have said, don't be surprised if he is the top 100 in our next update. And I think that's true across the board. Vinny is hitting really well. He excels at the thing that makes card values happen. He excels at getting hard contact to the ball very commonly. And so when you look at his actual stats at the AAA level, he's got under a 15% K percentage, just like Vargas, very excelling at bat to ball contact, 285 average. But the thing that he's really excelling at is his ISOs are 352. I mean, he's hitting the ball very hard at very consistent rate. I mean, he's got 15 home runs at the AAA level already. Like, the guy's killing the ball. He's
insane.
Definitely going to come up. He's definitely coming up quick. He's got a 160 WRC plus, which means he's 60% better than the league average. So he's very, very good. The only thing that I would say here, which would prevent him from being a buy compared to other players, is, traditionally speaking, first basemen don't offer a whole lot of value at the top end in card collecting. When you are looking at positional card collecting, it seems up the middle is very valuable. For instance, shortstop, center field, DHs are sometimes pretty valuable because of how explosive they can be. But even when you look at a guy like Yordan Alvarez, who is a bona fide top 5 player in the league and is getting national attention right now, still he is an undervalued player for what he does at the plate. And I think Vinny Pasquantino is gonna fit that same profile. He profiles to me to Anthony Rizzo. That's what we've said on our justbaseball.com as well. But he could have the Ty France effect, like what we're talking about, and where he's steadily ignored and just continues to hit and continues to hit and continues to hit, and which is why companies like Topps don't like they like to make flashy people in their sets. For instance, Acuna Jr. or Acuna, the third brother, he's like 16 barely, and they put him in this new set. He's not even playing professional ball yet, even like across In his home country, he's not even playing it. And so like that is such a they make Tatis, the second Tatis, a card, but Pasquantino doesn't have a card. Like this is Dustin Harris 2.0. Dustin Harris is a first baseman who is profiled as MLB's top, or I think he's number 3, or in the beginning of the report, MLB's first base prospects of the year. Dustin Harris just now got a first Bowman card. And he's been in the minors for years and years. And I think this is the same with Pasquantino. I think he will get a first Bowman card in this next set. So when it comes out in Bowman Chrome, I believe, now there's no data behind that, but I believe the Vinny will get a card this year. But at that point, it's going to be baked into his value. Like you're not going to be able to go find his value somewhere else. So he's not
a prospect at that point.
Right. I would invest other places personally, but I think Vinny is very good at what he does. But him being a first baseman and him, like seeing how Anthony Rizzo, Albert Pujols, all those guys that started as first baseman and were very good players and their value is not skyrocketed, I'm not going to choose to invest my dollars there.
Nice. Love it. Great analysis on Vinny Pasquantino and Miguel Vargas. Really appreciate that. And because Pasquantino only has unlicensed cards, this is actually a perfect segue over to our main man down in Tampa, Florida, the one and only Andy Cason from Football Card Quest and the host of the Football Card Strategy Show on NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. Andy, before we let you do your thing about the football card market, the data, and all that's gone on this offseason and the impact that it's going to have on cards and whose cards it will have the most impact on, I want to talk to you about a couple unlicensed cards that I found over the weekend that caught my eye as potential plays. And I say potential plays lightly because these are very new and probably don't have a huge market. And I tend to reach sometimes, but I like to reach because for the audience sake, of course. So let's start with an interesting one. Deion Sanders' son, who plays quarterback for him, Shedeur Sanders, I believe is going to be NFL draft eligible either in 2023 or 2024. And he has an unlicensed card for a company called Onyx, which the diehards may already know about, but the people that are just getting into sports card investing may or may not know about. And so for those of you watching, I'm going to bring it up on my screen here, but we're looking at a Shedeur Sanders 2021 Onyx Vintage Collection College Blue Ink Auto out of 400. Andy, whether or not you know anything about Shedeur playing D2 down in Florida for his Hall of Fame father, or just your take on
D1,
unlicensed products like
D2.
this in general. You're right, D1, but I think it's like
it's FC,
the second level of
whatever.
D1. Yes. Thank you for correcting me on that, Kendall. It's the former, I believe it's formerly D2 because I'm old. I get that wrong. It is D1. But Andy, what's your take on Shedeur and these types of cards?
Well, I think it all comes down to the entry price point, right? If you can go ahead and secure an on-card autograph of Shedeur now, just with the fame that he's going to have being Deion Sanders' son. And I do know that Deion Sanders here at Jackson State College is, through the new name, image, likeness program, they're able to pay college players. I've heard that Deion is putting quite a bit of money out on the line to bring in better players to the school. Mm-hmm. So that makes it very interesting because they are in, a very smaller college division. But I will say Shedeur does have a 79th percentile scouting grade at this point, and at 6'2", 215, that's a very interesting prospect, and he's definitely going to have some fame and some name recognition. He looks a lot like his dad too. So, draft eligible in 2024, I think you could see that hype peak around 2024. I do expect there to probably be like a Sage card that comes out, maybe a Leaf Pro set that also comes out with his autograph on it. That could be interesting buys. The one thing I don't like about these unlicensed cards is that they don't have any team names, or team logos of the college school on the front. But when they do have that autograph, that is very nice, because you're essentially getting an autograph to this player, and this is like, the youngest that they're going to get when they're signing cards. So I do think that has some really cool collectability and investment appeal to it.
Yeah, I think my thought process with this type of thing is like, okay, the play the play to me is obvious, but then there are also obvious concerns. The play is buy now while there's a really low entry level point, because it is unlicensed, because it's Onyx, which I mean, how many card company names would you have to name before you get to Onyx? I mean, at least probably 7 or 8, maybe even 12.
I thought it was actually
40.
a subset, to be fair.
But I thought it was the old rap group with Fredro Starr.
All right,
Onyx,
dude, you are
which,
aging
again,
yourself. Don't do that to
shows
yourself.
how old I am.
Don't do
Anyway,
that to yourself.
I gotta stop doing that to myself. Onyx. Anyway, the play is to buy now and then flip when on NFL Draft Day 2024. I mean, it's plain as day. The concern that you just brought up, though, is what other cards come out between now and then, which is 2 years from now. Is there a Leaf? Is there a Leaf Pro Set is a great call, Andy. I love that you brought that up, because that is a more recognizable card design. You've got the 1989 design that people recognize. You've got the 1990 design that people recognize. And even though Leaf and Brian Gray haven't been able to actually put team logos on them because of the licenses, they have, I think, done a pretty nice job with those designs with like the Trevor Lawrence sets and things like that. So that's interesting. So I'm not 100% sold on this particular Shedeur Sanders set. There are on-card autos. There are different color ink that coincides with the print run. So like, I think it's red out of 25. This is blue out of 400, and the market seems to be pretty stable for what these cards are going for at a ink color print run level. Yeah, I think it's actually pretty. I think it has potential legs, Andy. I think you're right about the price point. I think in order to make money on these cards, you have to buy at a really, really low entry level price point, and then I think you got to flip on draft day and just hope that Dion and Shedeur and other people involved. I think his name, image, likeness deal is actually maybe with a company associated with Tom Brady in some way. I think I ran across that. I don't have all the details on that, and I might be getting it incorrect, but I think I'm right on that. So he's an interesting guy. I saw a Super Bowl ad that he was in this past year with his father, obviously. And so I think we can expect to hear more from this young man, and he's an interesting one. So the other one I wanted to talk to you about before
Can I ask
we
a question there before you do that?
Yeah, go ahead, Kendall.
So, Andy, have you looked this card up on eBay at all?
I have not.
So if you were to guess, where would you think that this is being at?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I would want to spend somewhere under $30 for this card.
Okay. That's pretty good. Most are selling between $10 and $20 right now.
Yep.
See, I think that's very solid for an on-card autograph of this young man, because you could look at the Bowman U product, college product, and that's where you're gonna I think that's a very good entry price point, because the quarterbacks in that product, even third-round quarterbacks like Malik Willis that don't appear to have a starting chance in 2022 unless there's an injury, are still selling right now for around $50 to $60. So at a minimum. So, I think that under 20 is a very good price point.
Yeah, you see right here, Kendall, I'm really glad you asked that, because let's give the real data here, right? So one sold on May 31st for $650, the blue ink auto, and then you've got a lot of them right here. May 25th looks like it went for under $14.99. You've got as low as $550, as high as $19.99, $21, etc. There's a red ink auto out of 25 SGC 9 that sold for $199.99. So as you get into the lower print runs with the red ink, you get higher sales, obviously, but certainly a blue ink auto out of 400 taking a flyer on a guy like this for $15, it could pay off. So we'll see. Good stuff. So the other guy that I wanted to ask you about specifically is related to the Bowman U 2022 product, and Kendall's going to chime in here after Andy and kind of give his experience with this particular product if he wants to. But there's the two big QBs, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. To me, I would avoid them, because I think that they're probably, with this new product coming out, there's the hype of a new product, and there's the hype of the top players in the new product, and they're no secret. The good news is they're in the product. The bad news is I think they're overpriced. But then you've got other QBs that could get drafted later in the first round. We saw a guy like Justin Herbert. What did he get drafted, like 15th overall by the Chargers a few years ago? So does a guy like Tyler Van Dyke, for example, in Miami, does he move up in the first round? And is his Bowman U card now a potential play? Because you've got the out of 99 green refractor auto. You've got the out of 199 lava refractor auto. And I'll bring these up on my screen here for those of you watching. What's your take on Bowman U overall? And are there quarterback plays? Are there position plays? Good or bad with that product, Andy? What's your thought?
Yeah, so I like the Bowman U concept coming out of the gate because, and I'm sure Kendall could speak to this, but it has that Bowman first rookie card logo. And I was really attracted to that because that is very well known in baseball circles and baseball collectors, investors. They consider that as the true rookie card. However, when we come to football, actually getting that product in hand, having bought a hobby box and ripped it on my channel, not all the cards have the Bowman first logo. And then what they also did is they made several variations of the base card. They made a Bowman Chrome variation, then they made a base paper variation. And then there's multiple photograph variations of that to where some don't have the Bowman first logo and some have different photo variation. I was like, if they're going to print that much of an unlicensed product, which already struggles in the football card marketplace in the first place, why not stick to just a chrome finish? So I have been, moving away from buying the sealed Bowman U product to just targeting specific singles of guys that I like. They also excluded a lot of the best draft picks from this year's draft class. Like Breece Hall is not in there. My guy Rachaad White that was drafted to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is not in there. So there's several guys that aren't in the Bowman U product that were drafted this year that I think were big misses by Topps and Bowman in that set. And then I think they just made too many of the base variation. I think they should have stuck to that premium chrome finish, the chrome stock, which is a nice card.
Yeah, those are good points. And Kendall, do you have anything to add from your perspective before we talk about these particular singles? Because I do like what Andy's saying about, okay, the boxes are one thing, but then the singles are another. So we kind of have to separate. We have to, related to a product, we really have to do our best to clearly separate those for the audience. So what's your take on like the product in general, on your experience?
Yeah, I'm with Andy on this. I was super motivated to buy it when it was first coming out. Like when I first saw the first look of the checklist and everything, I was like, "Ooh, gotta have some of that for sure." Like especially with Bowman being kind of my thing. We've just had. We thought it would just fly off the shelves because in my perspective, it was kind of the first Topps/Phonetics like slap in the face to Panini. That was kind of my perspective of it, is like, okay, this is probably going to take off. But after ripping some of it and after seeing sales and stuff, I'm disappointed in how slow it's moved. And I don't know particularly why. I would say that Andy, you're right in the fact of like there's the checklist is top heavy. I'm not exactly sure if you said it that way, but that's how I would say it, is it's top heavy. And there's only a few guys that are chaseable. And then everyone else is probably going to have cooler cards in the future. And so I personally, so T, my co-owner of Wild Cards Trading, his son has bought a lot of this stuff because he likes college football. He's way into it. He's also young. So like He doesn't understand the investability of cards right now. He's all about collecting cards, which is totally cool. I'm not dogging that at all. If you guys are collectors on this show, fine. That's great. Typically, that's not what this show is about, but we're totally cool with investors and collectors as well. But like from this product, it's hard to imagine. Like, for instance, Lawson was pulling like $60 cards of running backs. And I'm like, dude, sell those right now. You know, like that's not going to get any higher than right now. But for the most part, these cards aren't moving. And so I would say that, Andy, you're completely correct, by singles over the batch. And if you want to buy more batches, we're selling them on loop every Friday. Please come buy some. So.
There you go. Help out Wild Cards Trading. And they are, I do think, I agree. I do think that products like this can be cool for collectors, especially young collectors. And, but yeah, on the singles side, Andy makes a good point. Like, and when I look at a guy like Tyler Van Dyke, for example, who early mock draft projections have him as like a mid first rounder at quarterback, and anything can happen. Football is obviously a game where injuries occur all the time. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks, draft stock completely plummet due to whatever this extra season is that they were supposed to improve their stock. And so I'm not saying that this is a surefire pick, but I do think that if you can target like a green refractor first Bowman out of 99 auto, even though it's a sticker auto, we're looking at one of a projected mid first round pick potentially at quarterback for $91, and then that's a sale, and then a $60 sale of a lava refractor out of 199. In my opinion, these are recognizable designs, beautiful designs. People are going to have different opinions on that, but I don't think there's any doubt that these are investable cards. I just think, Andy, what's your take on the risk level of a play like this? Because again, the play would be the same as Shedeur Sanders to me. It would be nothing other than buy them now if you can get them for this price and sell them literally on draft day in anticipation of Tyler Van Dyke being a first round pick. But a crap ton can happen between now and then. So give us your take on whether or not you would look at doing something like this.
I think it's very interesting. I do think that you do have some downside at a price point like $60, right? I mean, if you just technically, is this one numbered? This one looks like it's numbered out of
199.
199. Okay, so I like
199.
that because the scarcity alone, the fact he's a quarterback, it's autographed, I think will at least maintain, $30, $40. So you're not really, paying up a whole lot for his athletic ability at this point, just based on the scarcity of the card, which I do like. And if he goes mid first round, I think that absolutely presents a nice flip opportunity. We've seen Kenny Pickett's Bowman Chrome refractor autograph card just like this going for $700 just recently. And that's what his Bowman Chrome refractor autos are selling for, and he went towards the end of the first round. However, he was the only first round quarterback drafted this year, so it's a little bit different story. Plus, the Steelers have that massive fan base. But what's to say the Steelers aren't in the market for a quarterback again next year if this doesn't work out with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky this year? So, and then you have a few teams that are going to be in the market for a quarterback next year as well, and possibly even more if a lot of these 2021 guys don't work out. So I think the right market size, the right draft pedigree can absolutely see that card spike to several $100s if it's the only one out for him because of how liquid that autograph is. And then you add in the serial number. And so I love those aspects. And I think, that's a solid flyer for a quarterback. I think that's a really, solid investment point.
I think that what got me thinking this way is two things. One, you got to be super creative, I think, to make money doing this. And that's what we try to do on these shows. And two, we just had Prism 2021-22 come out. The big thing everyone's talking about, obviously, is that it's June and it normally comes out in October or November. So that's a big deal. And I think that, projecting into the future, it's probably not going to take June, but even if Prism 2022-23 doesn't come out until November or December, to me, there's a flippable window between when a guy like Tyler Van Dyke would get drafted, holding the Bowman U card that we're talking about, the first chrome serial numbered auto. There's still like a potential 3 to 4 month window during the football season where if he's playing or there's any kind of hype around him, that could be his card for several months before the first real pro release comes out. So that's kind of my way of segueing you into more pro football talk at this point, which is the release of 2021-22 Prism. So let's talk about the football card market as a whole. We sit here in early June 2022. Andy, you're in this all the time. So give us your overview on where we sort of stand and your key points of what you've been finding when you look at the NFL football card market right now.
Well, yeah, and that's it, Paul. Right now, we're in the heart of the offseason. Of course, you have the OTAs going on, or the offseason team activities. This is a voluntary workout. So the little tiny bits of news that we're getting from these events are kind of driving a little bit of hype spikes for certain players. But overall, the market is very much down. I'm looking at graded cards sold volume the last 7 days for virtually every player, including Herbert, Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Tua, Jalen Hurts. They're all down about 50%. Auction volumes are down. I think that's a culmination of several things. You got, NBA finals and MLB heating up. And then you also have the release of NFL Prism that was just this past Friday. And I think a lot of people have been starving for this product for so long that they've turned their attention to it. So they're doing more breaks. There's also a ton of singles already in the eBay marketplace. And so I think a lot of attention has gone to that. And none of those cards are graded yet. They're all raw in the wild right now. So it's interesting.
So what do you do when a new product comes out like this, whether or not the market is up or down? There seems to be, whenever a new product comes out, there's a huge spike in that one particular product, and then everything seems to fall off for the next, there might be like a month where it's just like super hot, but then everything falls off after that and everyone's sort of buying the newest release. And I just did an episode of the Basketball Card Strategy Show right here on the Sports Card Strategy feed, talking about what to do, how to kind of discipline yourself and where to go when a new product release comes out. So what do you do as a football card investor when something like this happens? The market's down and a new release comes out. What's your strategy? Is anything you're buying right now in this particular situation?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to find any, Joe Burrow or Justin Herbert desirable cards going well under market comps like those. Everybody's on those. But if you just go like one tier under those guys, and so a guy I'm targeting a lot this offseason, especially right now, is Jalen Hurts with the Philadelphia Eagles. They added A.J. Brown to their team, a generational talent to their team through the trade in the draft. They also bolstered the defense. And so it's like wheels up for Jalen Hurts this year in Philadelphia. And we saw a pretty big hype spike for him coming off of the draft, and that's cooled off. And especially now with this new product and everybody's, investing in 2021 Prism, I'm going back and looking at guys like Jalen Hurts and finding Prism Silvers ending in auction for around $20. And I mean, I'm not expecting them to get up to Joe Burrow levels and Justin Herbert levels of $500 to $600 raw, but I do see those cards getting to $100, $150 here as the season kicks off. The training camp, the actual training camp starts. Yeah, right. That's a nice flip, man. If you can find a bunch of those cards, potentially even some rookie ticket autos at like 150, for example, when you have Burrow and Herbert's going for $3,000, it just leaves you with a ton of room for upside. Big market team, new weapons, a ton of hype for him. He's already getting some hype with some clips that have leaked with his new throwing motion and improved throwing motion. That's been the big question mark about him. And training camp starts mid-July. I think that's when we're going to see the market start to heat up significantly, because that's a 3-week period before preseason when teams it's time for them to get into competition shape. And so that's when we start seeing the most amount of beat reporters at these events leaking footage, talking about this person being the starter, talking about this person stepping up and connecting big time with their quarterback. And so that's when we start seeing volume start to go up, and we start to see the football card market become very sensitive to what's going on at those events. And then preseason, it can get quite electric in preseason. Then the beginning of the season is a big crescendo.
So it sounds
Jalen
like
Hurts' value is super good. I'm looking at eBay comps right now compared to Russell Wilson. I mean, and I think both of them will have nice years, but when I'm looking at the eBay, like there's a 2020 Contenders rookie ticket auto out of 199 for 450. Like, that's a great price.
Wow. Yeah. It is a great price for the scarcity, the autograph, like all the assets that card contains. And then you add in the athletic ability. And it's just that one question mark about Jalen Hurts, and it's his ability to pass the ball. But what he did excel in last year, according to Pro Football Focus's grades, is short and intermediate passes. And they added the best short and intermediate wide receiver in the game in A.J. Brown. So it's going to be a big benefit to him. And he's going to get a lot of media coverage, a lot of hype coming into September, as he's still, their bona fide QB1 for at least 2022. And if he could earn the trust and confidence coming out, the Philadelphia Eagles also have another very easy schedule this year, and their defense is going to be even better. Like, they added key pieces to linebackers, the defensive line through the draft, secondary. Just recently added another stud corner from the Giants in Brad Bradbury. So I think they're going to be really good in 2022, potentially division winners. And so I think Jalen Hurts' values are going to go up big time from where they're at now.
That's awesome. We're totally aligned on the strategy, first of all, of going back a few years whenever there's a new release and looking for bargains. That's, I think, 100% what smart sports card investors need to do. And I think that we're also totally aligned on Jalen Hurts. He currently sits number 17 overall in our football card rankings at nooffseason.com, but I'm debating moving him up a little bit over a couple guys, especially Mac Jones and Justin Fields. Jamar Chase currently sit ahead of him, so I might have to update that, because I do agree with you on the fact that it sure seems like the Eagles are doing everything they can to put him in a position to succeed, adding A.J. Brown and just, showing their confidence in him. And to that point, what other teams have made moves that have positively impacted, or do you anticipate positive impact occurring for particular players from a football card perspective this season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest, the first and foremost one was Russell Wilson signing with the Denver Broncos. That was huge. That was absolutely huge for Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, even KJ Hamler. They traded Noah Fant as part of the trade and Drew Lock to Seattle, but that left Albert Uekabunam in Denver as the tight end one, who's got an incredible athletic profile, very fast for a tight end. Actually, a big portion of his routes that he ran last year as the tight end two, he was targeted on. So it'll be very interesting to see how the target share kind of divvies out there in Denver, but we've seen clear price increases in Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, even Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick was undrafted, so he's got very few rookie cards. They actually, what's interesting, Panini goes back, so Tim Patrick's a guy, is a red zone threat. He plays on the outside, but he's got some really good athletic ability, winning contested catch scenarios. Panini actually went back and printed him in 2020 product, even though he went undrafted out of 2017. So, and he had literally no rookie cards, but some Sage products. So they actually went and printed him in 2020 select for whatever reason. And it's interesting how they do things like that. But so yeah, Denver Broncos players, obviously that's big time. Cleveland Brown players, even though we still don't have a timeline on when Deshaun Watson's coming back. Another big increase this offseason has been Matt Ryan to the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz goes to the Washington Commanders. We love this situation for Michael Pittman Jr. on the Indianapolis Colts, who's you can look around the entire league and find more of an alpha, almost out there on 100% of the snaps, at a high target share rate. than Michael Pittman Jr. on the Colts, and he's getting a clear quarterback upgrade. Matt Ryan is a future Hall of Famer. Yeah, he's 37 years old, but I still think he's got a couple more years on his arm. He's like a little bit of a younger version of Phillip Rivers. And we saw what Phillip Rivers was able to do with the Colts. It was pretty impressive. He took them to the playoffs, and I think that's ultimately what they're looking for. They're going to lean on Jonathan Taylor, who was the number one running back in the game last year, and they've got an above-average offensive line. But now you get Matt Ryan back there, who's got a better arm than Phillip Rivers had and a little bit more consistent. And it's wheels up for Michael Pittman Jr. this year in Indianapolis as a wide receiver 1. So we've seen his stock go up as a result. So I really like that play there. And then, of course, we've had a lot of wide receiver changes. We've had 17 wide receivers in the NFL change teams this offseason, Paul. So, guys like Devontae Adams from the Packers to the Raiders. I mean, this is big for Derek Carr. We saw clear price increases in Derek Carr's rookie cards. There's going to be hype for Derek Carr heading into the season as well. It's a absolute arms race in the AFC West. So it's going to be the most fun division to watch. These guys play each other twice a year. It's going to be the most fun division to watch all season long. But Derek Carr has got absolutely arguably the best weapons you could ask for in Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow and then Darren Waller. So, I mean, it's fun, man.
Yeah, you've done an amazing job breaking down the impact of position player movements and just position players in general, other than quarterbacks, not only on the Football Card Strategy Show, but in particular on what you do on your Football Card Quest channel. I know you have the Quest Cast, and there's a premium version of your YouTube that people can really dig into if they join your channel. So that's phenomenal. And I like the Michael Pittman call. I like the Matt Ryan call. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. On Devontae Adams and Derek Carr in particular, and let's break down actually like two of the higher profile names. So like Tyreek Hill moved, and Devontae Adams moved. They're probably the two biggest ones, right? So what do you think the impact is on, let's say, Tua and Tyreek Hill from a card perspective versus, say, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams? Like, I guess I could frame the question like, if you had to pick a duo between the two of them, who would you invest in? Or you can just give me your take on all of them.
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to go with Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. They just have a more proven track record. They also have the college pedigree together at Fresno State, where Devontae Adams had roughly 1,500 receiving yards both years he played with Derek Carr as his quarterback at Fresno State. So you absolutely love to see that. And then you add in the other weapons that Carr has and all the experience he now has. Plus, they bring in Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator from the New England Patriots, as the new head coach of the Raiders. So absolutely love all that stuff. In Miami, yes, they bring in Tyreek Hill. They bring in Mike McDaniels, who was the former coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers. So he's going to bring in a lot of that Kyle Shanahan run-heavy, set-up, play-action mentality from San Francisco over to Miami. And if you notice, Miami's actually added several running backs this offseason. They've added Sony Michel. They've added Chase Edmonds. I think recently one of the guys is slipping my mind right now, but they've added literally like 4 running backs this offseason to their depth chart. Probably going to cut one of them, but what they're looking to do more in Miami is a lot of movement at the line of scrimmage, give Tua a lot of help in helping him like make decisions, also a lot of trick plays. You're probably going to see some handoffs to Tyreek Hill. I still think it's going to be very interesting to see how Tyreek Hill and Tua connect in the receiving game, because Tua has such a strong connection with Jalen Waddle, a second-year player. And Jalen Waddle and Tua went to college together, and they were fairly prolific at Alabama. So they have this connection. Obviously, we saw Jalen Waddle break out last year with Tua, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that target share breaks up. Obviously, Tyreek's going to be schemed in a ton. He's going to be the first read a lot because of how much they paid for him and how explosive he is. But Jalen Waddle's right behind him. Plus, he's got all that chemistry with Tua. And I'm just not sure that Tua has got the athletic ability or the arm ability to make some of the downfield throws that may be presented to him. That's kind of my concern with Tua. And you have Mike McDaniels, who wants to establish the run and more of this run-heavy offense, versus Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, who are clearly going to be passing the ball a lot, especially in the AFC West. Josh McDaniels, the whole 9 yards. So I think Tua is going to be on a much tighter leash. There's still a lot of hype for Tua because of his high school pedigree, because of his college pedigree, draft pedigree, the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of really deep-seated Tua fans out there. But this is the year for Tua to either, prove it or lose it, because I could see a situation where Tua is benched by like week 6. I could also see a situation where Tua is being big-time hyped up by week 6 as well, if he can actually make some of this stuff come to fruition to execute.
It sounds like Tua's prices just haven't dropped enough to invest in him yet, where he's a flyer, but he still has so much hype that you can't go there yet. Is that where you stand with him?
I see him trading around the same as Jalen Hurts, sometimes more. Like, I see reaches for Tua's cards more often than Jalen Hurts. And so, yeah, I think that for me, I would rather invest in Jalen Hurts. There's also, still, I think, some injury concern. Tua is just more fragile. He's just a smaller player. He's more fragile. He's got the hip injury from college that still kind of hangs over him, kind of haunts him, because that was a very similar injury to the one that ended Bo Jackson's career back in the 90s. However, modern sports medicine, they were able to fix him up, and now he's 3 years removed from that. So I still think that kind of hangs over him, and he got banged up a couple weeks last year as well. And I still think that, when faced with serious pressure-packed situations, I'm not sure that Tua is going to be able to execute to the level that certainly not the level that a Derek Carr is going to execute at. So I'm way more bullish on Derek Carr from that aspect. I think you're also going to see a lot more primetime shootout scenarios from Derek Carr and Devontae this year. So I'm staying away from Tua for the time being.
Love it. All right. Well, let's talk about – I'm going to run you through a gauntlet. Actually, it's not a gauntlet. It's just one round of a gauntlet. And it's not only because we love you, but it's because we respect you that we lead this gauntlet with the guy that we know that you are very high on from your last appearance on the Sports Card Strategy Show. And I just wonder if Kendall knows who it is. Kendall, can you lead us into this one?
Is it Mike Gesicki?
You go guess. It is none other than Mike Gesicki. Yeah. And if I had a producer for this show, I would have that producer bring up a clip of how enthused Andy was when he was talking about Mike Gesicki. Boy. But if you had to buy Mike Gesicki Contenders rookie ticket autos, and I did this on the fly, everybody. I was not prepared for this. Otherwise, I would have prepared Andy for it. Or the man that you just mentioned less than 10 minutes ago, who I had never heard of, Albert.
He also mentioned him in the last podcast.
He did. I did not know that, Kendall. All right. Wait.
I just remember it being a name that I was like, there's no way I know how to spell that.
Akwigbunam.
Yeah, Albert Uegbunam. Or just Albert O for short.
No, I like to say it again. I like to get this correct.
Albert Uegbunam.
Albert Uegbunam. All right, we got that. So you can get his Contenders rookie ticket auto, just the non-serial numbered version. It looks like for under $12 in some scenarios. And then it looks like Gesicki. I mean, I kid, but like I don't mean to kid, because like I just love Andy and I'm poking a little fun at him. But the reality is, like, he goes deep, and this is legit. This is real football card investing, like, pro style here. And Gesicki, like, these are plays. I mean, you get his rookie ticket auto, comparatively the same one for $59.99 or just under $59.99. So of these two flyers, Andy, like, it sounds like, Russell Wilson's involved now, and Gesicki, still has Tua and all these other weapons, Tyreek Hill and all that, even though, fantasy football comes into play, I think, when you go this deep into football card investing. So talk us through, like, if you had to pick between these two tight ends and why, who do you pick? And like, actually, what's the play? Like, is it a fantasy football type play where, like, this is your cheap waiver move, and then you're waiting for that week where you think they're going to blow up when you put them in your starting lineup, meaning, like, AKA you list to the card? Is that, like, give us kind of your overall thought process in addition to kind of picking between these two tight ends here if you had to.
Yeah, so as of right now, I think that Albert O is going to have the higher upside compared to where you can buy into him at, because Russell Wilson is without a doubt a much better quarterback than Tua. And you're talking about a team that's in the AFC West in that shootout division that we're talking about with the Chargers and the Raiders and the Chiefs. It's going to be an incredible shootout schedule, shootout after shootout after shootout for the Denver Broncos, which just means more routes run, more opportunities for Albert O to get receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, etc. So, and he's got a limited supply of his rookie cards because he wasn't drafted until the 4th round. Now, I do love Mike Gesicki from a receiving standpoint. The guy has higher draft pedigree, drafted in the 2nd round. He's also got an insane athletic profile. You know, he's 6'6", 247. He runs at 4.54, so a guy his size running that at that speed with the wingspan that he's got is just insane. So he's a huge target. He lines up more like a receiver most of the time, and that's kind of the downside to him as a tight end, and downside to him at this point in this year, post Tyreek Hill addition to the Miami Dolphins offense, is that he's not going to be the best guy at pass blocking or run blocking. So he's a true receiving style tight end. And when you have target competition of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, they also added Cedric Wilson from the Dallas Cowboys. So you add in a lot of target competition. I don't think that Mike Gesicki, with an inferior quarterback at Tua, and Mike McDaniels as their head coach, a run-heavy head coach, is going to get nearly the same amount of opportunity this year that Albert O is going to get in the Denver Broncos. Much more pass-heavy offense. They're going to be passing the ball a lot, probably at a 60-40% ratio. And so I'm way more bullish on him. Plus, it's obvious that the entry price point on Albert O is better. But, you know, Mike Gesicki so if you're playing dynasty fantasy football where you're stuck with these guys over the life of their career, unless you cut or trade them, I think Gesicki is a good athlete. He's a good guy to have on your squad. And, you know, I do think he's going to have some relevant weeks where he's getting some touchdowns. I don't necessarily see a good path for the Dolphins to make a playoff run this year. It's possible, but they're going to have to get through the Buffalo Bills, of course, the New England Patriots, and then all these other teams in the AFC we're talking about. But just in their own division, I don't even see them as a possible first-place contender in their own division. And there's a reason why the Dolphins also added Teddy Bridgewater to their quarterback room, because if Tua steps on his you-know-what and does not play well coming out of the gate or potentially gets injured, Teddy Bridgewater is a very competent bridge quarterback, you know, comes from the Denver Broncos, right? But Teddy Bridgewater is a journeyman at this point. He's almost like the late, great Ryan Fitzpatrick, you know, where you could put – he's a starting quarterback caliber. He's just not like a, you know, league-winning, game-winning, Super Bowl-winning quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that
Can
you
I throw
look
in
at the
a
schedule.
third player into the gauntlet?
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
David Njoku.
So Albert
just
O,
signed a massive deal.
Okay.
And
He did.
Albert O against David Njoku.
Yeah,
Okay,
Albert
good
O
call.
against David Njoku, around $35, most recent. So a little bit under Gesicki's value in terms of price point. But some of those question marks that you presented with quarterback and schedule and all that kind of stuff, a little different in Njoku's case.
Yes, absolutely. Love David Njoku as well. Another incredible athlete. And David Njoku was drafted in the 1st round from 2017. Also love 2017 product, same draft class as Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, coincidentally enough. So I think the biggest question mark for Njoku is, when are we going to get Deshaun Watson? Like, if Deshaun Watson is suspended for 2022, which is what all the reports still indicate, that he's going to be suspended for a whole nother season, man, it's hard to get. But however, what if Baker Mayfield, what if he's technically still on the roster right now? Baker Mayfield's still on the Browns roster. So what if Baker Mayfield actually plays for the Browns in 2022 because Deshaun Watson is confirmed misses the entire season? which would be then the worst deal that the Browns have ever made in history, because not only have they paid Deshaun Watson historic guaranteed money of hundreds of millions of dollars, they would be on the hook to pay him all this money in 2022 and him not to play. It's hard for me to think that he's going to be suspended for a full year, knowing how much money they paid him, but it's a possibility. And Baker Mayfield's still there. What if Baker Mayfield plays? I think Njoku is a very interesting option, but only 500 receiving yards last year. I mean, he's such a good tight end, though.
Also, Austin Hooper was there last year.
Austin Hooper was there. So now David Njoku is clear tight end 1 with less target competition. I do like that. He's got more experience with Baker Mayfield than Amari Cooper, who just jumped in the fold. You lost Jarvis Landry. So you still got Donovan Peoples-Jones, Anthony Schwartz. You drafted David Bell, who I'm really interested about as a prospect. I think it all comes down to who's the quarterback, but David Njoku, same price as Albert O. I still got to go Albert O because of the quarterback situation, the certainty that we have at quarterback in Denver.
Cool. But it was a more competitive.
And Kevin Stefanski is notoriously a run-heavy coach. Right. So they still have one of the best offensive lines. You still got one of the best downfield runners in the game in Nick Chubb. Still got Kareem Hunt. Still got Dearness Johnson behind him. So I still think that, Albert O is going to get a lot more opportunity this season than him, but it is a little bit closer there because I am a big fan of David Njoku.
Yeah, I kind of like
Good
how
question,
Cleveland
Kendall.
was able to bring. I'm a Browns fan, that's why I brought it up. But I liked how he almost was out the door when they brought in Hooper, and he kind of fought his way back into that tight end 1 role. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very true. He had some big games. Like, he's got serious yards after catch ability. He can even get behind the defense sometimes and make some deep receiving plays. So I think Njoku's got the ability to make those splash plays. You've also got the Browns who are going to be in primetime scenarios, right? And they're going to be setting up for the passing game well. It's just like, I wish we had some more clarity to the quarterback room. I also still think, though, that Baker Mayfield's a buy. Like, so many people fail to realize that he played through injury last year on multiple occasions, which actually hurt him. That's what hurt his stock so much. Like, if he hadn't played through the shoulder injury and then the rib injury and the injuries were just piling on, we may not be looking at him in the same light. Like, he wouldn't have had all those interceptions and all those failures to execute if he just didn't play. But he's such a competitor that he forced through it to try and help get his team. Like, people forget that they just had Kansas City on the ropes in the playoffs the year before after destroying the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wild card round, right? In the divisional round, they had Kansas City on the ropes. And then last year, the season opener, the Browns against the Kansas City Chiefs, they had him on the ropes again throughout the first half. Baker Mayfield looked incredible. And, of course, he's the Heisman Trophy winner, got the draft capital. So I think his prices right now are super low. He's an interesting buy for me as well.
How about a Baker Mayfield 2019 Prism Color Blast PSA 10 going for less than a third of the price just a couple months ago? Now, this was before a lot of the this is probably right after they signed Deshaun Watson, obviously, so nothing's really sold since then. But, September 2021, this card sold for $1,878, and then this offseason, $504. I'm not saying that's a common card that you can just go scoop up for $500, but it is interesting when you think about making a bigger Baker Mayfield play on a short printed card, given the circumstances that Andy's talking about. Not sure how you guys feel about that move, but it is interesting to think about.
Yeah, you've got a lot of good quarterbacks to comp him to, right? You've got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson from 2018. You could even say, okay, what are Sam Darnold's cards currently trading for? And look at that as the floor. And if Baker's cards are only a little bit more in comparison to the same scarcity of a card of Sam Darnold, then it's like, okay, I'm going to buy it because Baker Mayfield is a way better quarterback than Sam Darnold. And Baker's going to get a starting opportunity again somewhere. And we've seen him make some incredible throws. We've seen him flash the upside when he's healthy. on the field. And I know there's that whole thing like, well, he's got drama in the locker room. He's definitely, there's some egotistical stuff going on there, maybe a little bit of narcissism from Baker Mayfield, but he doesn't like to be told when he's wrong. He's like maybe one of those guys that say, no, it was the receiver's fault instead of, his fault on certain plays. But the Browns absolutely did him dirty in this whole deal. So I think Baker's definitely getting a starting job somewhere. There's already been two teams, Seahawks, obviously they're not sold on Drew Lock or Geno Smith. And then the Panthers obviously are potentially desperate this year for a starting quarterback. So they're still in the market for Baker Mayfield as well. And I think they're the ones who actually went on the record and said that the Browns release Baker, we would sign him tomorrow.
Super interesting. The level of irony that investors in both Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield have in common. What they have in common is ironic to me, is what I'm trying to say, because it's almost like Deshaun was this superhero quarterback and then plummeted, and everyone's probably just been holding on him. And now I would think that Baker people from a year ago are maybe still holding on him, and both are still hoping that these guys are going to both hit the field and show their true potential that they both once had. So it'll be an amazing NFL season coming up for football card investors. Sounds like we're in a buying season right now, probably through that hype period in July and probably right around the National, which is July 27th through the 31st, will probably be, I would guess, a tipping point kind of to the other way where it might become the season to list. So I think do your buying now, and then you're holding in August, and you're holding and listing during the season. Andy, would you agree or disagree with that? And there's probably caveats, obviously, because things change all the time with injuries, as we know from playing fantasy football. But that's kind of my thought on the seasonality based on what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we are in a great buying window right now. Like there's more players we didn't even talk about, but we are in a great buying window right now, especially not for the youngest guys. Like so much focus on the 2021 Prism and pretty soon Optic and Select, and 2022 Prism draft picks, which I know we talked earlier in the show about Bowman U for new prospect, but 2022 Prism draft picks is going to highlight all the best draft selections from this past draft. And it's going to be a licensed product. It is college uniform, but it's a licensed product. That's coming out soon. So you got a lot of focus on this stuff. It's a little unique this year. But we're seeing still, obviously, right, if you're holding a card of Justin Jefferson, Jonathan Taylor, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, any of the best players in the league, and it's a rare card and it's iconic, you can still go ahead and list that now and make good money on that card. But if you wait till August, September, it may not change a whole lot, maybe a little bit more, right? But there's a lot of other players, like if you just go one tier under those guys, the second tier players, and then the third tier players, and those guys are super low right now. You can snipe those guys, like what I like to say, in auctions that end on eBay throughout the week, where you can find, even buy it now, is like watch some Baker Mayfield, buy it now. There's a potential that seller is just going to send you an offer trying to sell that card, and you could come out like a bandit, but these are values that are going to go up big time August, September. Like look at Gronk. Gronk still hasn't signed with the Bucks, but the writing's on the wall. He's absolutely going to sign with the Bucks. He's at OTAs with them right now, working out with Tom Brady, laughing it up. I mean, there's no to me, there's no mystery that he's going to sign. Like, he's definitely going to run it back with Brady. Like, are you kidding me? But his value still, I'll see him dip. Like right now, like I'm targeting his Chrome, because the Chrome from 2010, like that's a nice card, and that's a card I've seen get up to $50, $60. And right now you can potentially snipe an auction for like under 20. I think that's a, very good buy. Guys like that have a lot of safety. You go look at DeAndre Hopkins, similar situation for him, where he's missing the first 6 weeks due to PEDs, but he'll be right back in an explosive offense. You could potentially secure some of his nice stuff. Like I saw a rookie ticket auto for him in the other day in auction for like $50. That's an incredible value when you compare him to other really good wide receivers. Jamar Chase from Jamar Chase, he's going like $500 for his rookie ticket auto. It's a huge disparity there.
Yeah, for sure. And I almost did pull trigger on some Gronk, some higher end Gronk Topps Chrome rookie autos after I heard you on the Football Card Strategy show talking about Gronk and D Hop, both great calls. And yeah, I think I'd probably rather put my $50 Tyler Van Dyke investment maybe into a guy like DeAndre Hopkins as a quick flip, just because then I don't have to wait like a whole year. I can wait just maybe like a few months, few weeks to flip a D Hop. But great stuff, Andy. Before we let you go, I know Kendall had a fantasy football question that he wanted to drop into the Sports Card Strategy show. Kendall, do you still remember what you wanted to ask Andy on the fantasy football side of things? I assume it was just a amazingly selfish move on your part.
Amazingly
to do that.
selfish, actually. Yeah, you're correct.
So why don't you go ahead and be amazingly selfish right here on the Sports Card Strategy show?
So, Andy, you actually almost brought it up earlier, and I didn't even have to ask it, but I'm going to have to ask it now because you didn't refer to actual names. So I'm in a dynasty league that is we drafted once, and we do a first year player draft. We don't drop anyone. Like it's not like you can keep 2 or 3 guys. It's like full roster you can keep. It's dual quarterbacks, and tight ends have a pro rate, basically like their catches are 1.5 instead of 1. Does that all make sense so far?
Yeah, full dynasty with a tight end premium.
Yeah, and double quarterback.
Quarterback.
So last year I finished around mid-table. I didn't have the best running back situation, so I just started picking up people. But I'm in a bit of a pickle now because pretty much everyone on my roster signed with the Miami Dolphins. So I literally have Chase Edmonds, Tyreek Hill, Myles Gaskin, let's see, Teddy Bridgewater for my second quarterback. Let's see, Sony Michel. There's some more of them. Hold on. And Mostert.
That's right. Raheem Mostert was the other one that signed with the
Dolphins. I think I have almost the entire Miami Dolphins running back core, and I've got to move on from obviously some of them. They can't all play. So obviously it's a very deep league as well because I'm rostering some dudes that you would never roster. For instance, I have Kellen Mond on my team. So there's 16 teams in this league.
Deep.
Yeah, there's 16 teams in this league, and we have I think 30-man rosters. So I mean, you're sniping people that literally sometimes don't even have. Oh,
Kendall, sorry, Andy, to cut you off here, but yeah. Kendall, let me ask you. You said 30-man rosters. Tell me this has individual defensive players, because if it doesn't, I mean, you're drafting like the 4th and 5th QBs on some teams.
Oh yeah, you're
so
correct.
Is team
about
defense?
That. No. Yes, it is. Yeah, actually, we don't even have defense. Okay. Well, there is no defense.
Oh, okay. No
wow.
I like that even better. But wow, yeah, that's way deeper than my league.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like it, to be honest, but I'm in it.
Well,
there's zero draft every year.
You're in the position where it's like, man, you're in rebuild mode.
Yeah, instantly.
I mean, yeah, because you've got to get obviously, I think the Dolphins are going to cut one of these guys, and they just signed Chase Edmonds. He's getting paid pretty good money. He's going to be their starter. Sony Michel is more of a backup deal. Raheem Mostert's on a little prove-it deal. Myles Gaskin is the guy they drafted from 2019, so his contract is coming up. I could see them trading or releasing him from the team if any of these guys. But I think they're going to keep that depth because it's Mike McDaniel's plan from the 49ers. And you see the kind of running back depth they need on the 49ers because the type of run schemes that they run that cut to the outside and cut up field is a very dangerous run play. It's like a lot of running back injuries result from that. So I think that's why they've got this depth. Like that's their game plan heading into 2022. So I think you get rid of Myles Gaskin, but I think you probably already you need to start looking at I would say trading Tyreek Hill. See if you could trade Tyreek Hill on some hype. Maybe get a couple lower guys a tier down. Like maybe you could pick up like an Allen Robinson and a future first or second round pick from next year for Tyreek Hill.
Nice.
Maybe two wide. Maybe you can get 2 wide receivers, or maybe you can get Allen Robinson and Tyrion Davis-Price, who's a rookie that was just drafted from San Francisco by San Francisco in the 3rd round. And I think that Tyrion Davis-Price is going to break out in that offense this year ahead of Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, Jeff Wilson, all those guys they have, because they've never spent 3rd round capital. Like they spent 6th round draft capital last year in Elijah Mitchell, and you guys saw what he did in that offense. Well, this year they spent 3rd round capital in Elijah Mitchell, which tells you that they felt like they had a need, and they also wanted to spend up and get a tank from LSU. And the guy's still fast. He's built really solid. And I think that Tyrion Davis-Price is a really good asset to have in Dynasty at some point this year, because Elijah Mitchell, even his rookie season, missed like 6 games due to injury, just because of the way that they use those guys in the San Francisco offense. So, I mean, maybe you could get a couple like tier 2 assets, maybe a future pick for Tyreek Hill. I would totally do it.
Cool. Thanks for the advice.
Love it.
But you're 2 quarterbacks, man. So you have to start 2 quarterbacks on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And you've got Teddy Bridgewater, and who is your starting?
My starter is Josh Allen.
Oh, okay. So you've got Josh Allen to kind of carry.
So listen to the rest of the team. I have Josh Allen, Austin Eckler, Chase Edmonds, Tyreek Hill, Amon St. Brown, and then I did draft Jamison Williams in the 1st round this year. I have Kyle Pitts, Dalton Schultz, and David Njoku.
So you're not in total rebuild mode. Like, I mean,
my bench is just only Miami players.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I would try and do like a package deal with Tyreek Hill and get some like tier 2 assets and a future 1st round pick. Because think about it, you got Bryce Young and CJ Stroud coming out next year. If you could potentially, I don't know, package these up for a 1st round pick with Tyreek Hill and then kind of, play this season with Josh Allen carrying the team at quarterback, because the chances of Bridgewater playing are low, but it's still definitely a chance. Like he's 1 injury away, or potentially a Tua screw up away from starting in Miami, because they really just need a game manager at this point with all the weapons they've got, right? So, I think that would be a really interesting approach you could take, and then look to secure a 1st round pick next year to potentially get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Now all of a sudden in 2023, you're in the catbird seat.
Nice.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Trade Teddy Bridgewater to the Tua owner for something.
Yeah, maybe you could do a package deal with Teddy, Tyreek, and to the Tua owner, because that's appealing stack value there for a future 1st round pick, and then you just tank your season. So is last place get the first number 1 overall pick next year?
Yeah.
So unless there's no punishment to last place, like you have to get like a My Little Pony tattoo on your leg or something like that.
It's not that serious.
Then maybe you could just tank your season and get the first number 1 overall pick next year, and draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud.
Not a bad option. My thought was that Sony Michel doesn't fit into the scheme, and so like they would keep. I don't think they want to keep Gaskin long term, but because they've obviously not let him be the guy since over the past couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in Mostert and they bring in Edmonds, so those are going to be the guys that I think if Mostert comes back healthy, he's going to be on that roster, I think. And then you've got Gaskin on a rookie deal, so you might as well keep him at 3, and then Sony Michel's just down here. Is that the right way of thinking about that?
I think Sony Michel is going to be like your between the tackles, grinder, breather back between the 20s. Chase Edmonds is going to be the best combination of like youth and explosiveness with high-end receiving ability. And then Raheem Mostert's like your stretch gap run play that the 49ers love to play, and that Mike McDaniel is going to bring from Kyle Shanahan. So those tosses to the outside, or those where the linemen shift to the outside and Mostert runs the outside and then cuts upfield. So that's what Mostert's going to be there for. But Mostert is so fragile. Like he's like an older, more fragile version of Aaron Jones. So the chances of Mostert getting hurt are pretty high at this point. He's almost 30 years old. Like they're pretty high, man. but he can execute at a high level if he doesn't get injured. Like if he gets through those plays without getting injured. And so that's kind of how I see them using those guys. And obviously Gaskins is there for depth. We saw him be pretty explosive, break some tackles, pretty solid out of the receiving game as well. He's kind of like an undersized guy like Eckler, where he's just solid muscle and he just performs well on the field. But obviously they wanted more speed, more depth to the team. So I think that's kind of how I see it unfolding this year, but they're probably going to have to get rid of one of those guys. Maybe it's Salvon Ahmed. Maybe they release him.
Cool. Thanks.
Well, fantasy football questions, welcome on this video on YouTube. We will answer them. And if you want to ask fantasy football questions on the Facebook group as well, in honor of Kendall and Andy, we will let you do so and be more than happy to reply. And in other good news, Albert Aquanegbaum is available in my Dynasty League. My Dynasty League is not as deep as
looked,
Kendall's.
and he's not in mine. So
go get him, Paul. Go get him, man.
I think I'm going to target him, my man. I think you have added so much value, not only to our audience, but to my life in general for many reasons. And I appreciate you being a part of the nooffseason.com family. Encourage everyone to check out what you're doing over at Football Card Quest. And encourage everyone to check out what Kendall and his partners are doing over at Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook and justbaseball.com. These guys are both amazing experts in their particular fields, and I am honored to have them as part of the team at nooffseason.com. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show. This has been episode 35. I would love it if you check out nooffseason.com and the hard work that my team and I are doing on our sports card investment report. If you want to try to dig as deep as Andy and Kendall do into the sports cards to buy per athlete, you can save 20% on our premium version by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, at checkout. Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening, and have a great day.